Hey everybody, so I am back with another video. As you can see by the title, I will be talking about Andrew Schultz and his comments about and towards Umar Johnson. And I basically wanted to talk about how this man, Andrew Schultz, called him out a long time ago, and only now, not even only now, but like pretty much last year, the year before, I actually believed him. I actually started to see where he was coming from. Now, I will leave the links to two videos of his down below, and I want you to go check that out. I actually know Andrew Schultz from watching Guy Code. That is only where I know him from. He does have his own little page on YouTube. He's, been in circles with Charlemagne the God and everything like that. So, yeah, so that's how I know Andrew Schultz. And I was very, very surprised to find him making commentary and, talking about Umar Johnson because, these two people seem like, from two different worlds. You know what I'm saying? They're just like in two different realms. I'm thinking Andrew Schultz is just a comedy guy. He's just a show commentator. And you know what? That's his lane and whatever. But anyway, Umar Johnson has, been in the airwaves. He was on Vlad TV talking, and then, Andrew Schultz also was on Vlad TV, and they did an interview with Andrew Schultz basically asking him his opinions on Umar Johnson and, his thoughts on that, because Umar had said things about, the LGBTQ, and he has said things about white supremacy. Like I said, some are valid when he talks about these points, but, he goes so far to a very, very segregationalist and separatist, supremacist type of thinking. Now, granted, I understand where all that comes from. That comes from being tired. That comes from being exhausted of dealing with the problems of white supremacy. That comes from, observing and seeing how things are kind of going down for us as a black race in his mind. Okay, but, at first, I ignored what Andrew Schultz had to say about Umar Johnson, especially, the criticisms that he gave him. And some of the criticisms were Andrew Schultz definitely questioned Umar Johnson's credentials. He doesn't even call him Dr. Umar. It's like this man, Andrew Schultz, Mr. Schultz, he called Umar Johnson out for the longest. It's as if he saw that he was a fraud from the longest. And of course, we ignored it because we just looked at him as some, you're just some sensitive, self-centering, butthurt, bitter white man who just does not want to hear the truth about white supremacy. So you're just going in on Dr. Umar because his points are just so strong you can't handle it. But looking back on it now, I hate to say it. I really hate to say it, but it needs to be said. Andrew Schultz, like the first and probably the only white person that I ever heard call Umar out, you were right. He was right. You don't want to hear that, but he was actually right. I'm not sticking up for, white folks or anything like that. I'm not trying to say I'm siding with white supremacy or anything like that, because I know that's how some of you guys will do. You'll stretch it and you'll reach and you'll say, here you are like cooning for white supremacy or something. Miss me with that. But let's just be real. That doesn't mean he wasn't any less correct about Umar. Even with the school, even a fraud, he pinpointed certain facts that we just ignored because we just wanted to believe so much in Umar. We just looked at Umar as being this one person that was really good for the black community because he was educating people who knew nothing, okay? He was educating people who haven't heard some of the things he was saying. So, and he was doing it so well that we all believed it, that most of black people believed it, okay? Andrew Schultz even called Umar a fraud about the school. He was saying that, look, this man is a fraud because guess what? He's just coming in very charismatically. He even said it in not the Vlad TV interview, but he said it in a video that's on his page. I will leave the link down in the description below. And he said, well, when you have a people who are being so oppressed, who are being so downtrodden, who are basically full of despair. They feel hopeless and helpless. They are suffering under a very cruel system, and they're angry and they're upset, rightfully so. Yes, we have the right to be angry. Let us be angry. But Andrew Schultz said when you have the people who are basically very vulnerable because they've been suffering under an oppressive system of systematic oppression, when they've been under a system so long and they're just so downtrodden, and they just want a way out, here comes this man who's very charismatic, who says all the things you want to hear, who strokes your egos. That's what really, especially the new black people who still support Umar, that's really what he does, is stroke your ego, okay? Make you feel good when you live in a world that makes you feel bad, okay? And Andrew Schultz said that Umar, he comes in with that slick talk, he comes in with that charisma, he comes in making promises that you want to see come into fruition. Hitler did the same thing in Germany. You know, when Germany, after the First World War, they were under a Great Depression. You know, they went through a real recession. Guess what? Hitler comes in and says, guess what? I will solve all your problems. I will do that. And in a way, he actually did that. But then he turned around and said, and pointed the finger at another group of people, and look what happened. But that's what Umar is kind of doing. You know what I'm saying? Basically saying, hey, you're going through something. And this was at a time where we're suffering through severe police brutality, or at least in the media. I'm not saying it doesn't happen now, but we were really seeing it under Obama. You know what I'm saying? He was basically saying that, guess what? We were suffering from immense police brutality, the microaggressions at work and school. We were suffering under a lot of overt and covert racism. You know what I'm saying? And we were just so tired. We were exhausted. We were upset. We were sick of seeing us being slain in the street. And here this man comes saying, I will have a school. I'm opening up a school that's going to help you, that's going to help your black boys, that's going to help your black girls, that's going to help the black community. And he's dropping knowledge not only on our history, and he's like putting two and two together and kind of saying this is all psychological. And of course, if you're none the wiser, and if you never heard of this man, or if you never heard a man speak like him before, and you know what, you're so like this so much because you're angry and you're hurt, and he can actually explain it better than I am doing right now. So be sure to check that link in the description. But I'm saying Andrew Schultz called this man out a long time ago. And you know what? Looking back on it, I'm like, everything Andrew Schultz said about Umar in that interview with like Charlemagne and another person, he was right. He was so right. But of course, a lot of us didn't believe it because we just look at him as like, you're just being this butthurt, angry white man deflecting from the real problems of white supremacy. But even if he's deflecting from the real problems of white supremacy, what he says about Umar isn't any less true. And you know what? That is that's really bad on our part. Again, that's really bad on our part. You know what I'm saying? We can't be so locked up in emotion that we don't think critically. And we can't be so quick to want something. We need to stop looking for the one surefire answer that's going to solve a whole plethora of our problems. We have way too many problems in our community, and some of which we cause, okay? We have way too many things in our community that are happening that we can't just be so, you know, emotional about. You know what I'm saying? We have the right to be angry. We have the right to be stressed. We have the right to be under pressure. We have the right to, you know, have our certain feelings towards it, but we can't be like that for too long. We can't be so downtrodden that we put our eggs in one basket that's going to solve the whole community's problem. And I think that's what a lot of us did with Umar and this school thing. He was very much overselling the school. So notice he said, at my school, we're going to have, you know, this, and that. We're going to have natural hairstyles. We're going to learn agriculture. We're going to have military science. We're going to learn how to breed animals and things like that. I'm saying, look, this man seems to just want a whole society in one school. And I'm not saying that it couldn't be possible, but it's not going to be an overnight thing. Let's just be real. He seems to want this stuff overnight. But of course, coming to find out, I don't believe there is a school. And even if he does get a school, like I said in my last video, it's not going to be as grand and as, you know, extravagant as he claimed it was going to be. It's probably going to be that little building that he could have bought a long time ago. Okay, so at this point, he's just beating around the bush, and he was never going to open a school. Now, I want to get into Tariq Nasheed. Here's when a big chunk of me, here's when 99.9% of me believe that Umar was a fraud, okay? The reason I don't say 100% is because me personally, I am neutral. I try to be neutral nowadays. I try to give certain people the benefit of the doubt, but most of me believes right now that he is a fraud. This is when Tariq Nasheed called out Umar. I was watching Lovely T's video, And then I looked to the side, you know, where all the related videos are, and then I saw a video with a thumbnail saying that Tariq Nasheed exposes Umar as a fraud. So I clicked that. It was a 45, 47-minute video, okay? I'll try to put that link in the description as well, okay? He said that, hey, he even got right into it in the live video, because I believe this was a live stream. He got into it, man. He wasn't even beating around the bush. He wasn't even welcoming people. He said, I got to address this fat fuck Umar. And I'm like, already? Dang. And he goes in and says, Umar's a fraud, family. I apologize to Black society for legitimizing him. And yes, it kind of does go back on him, because he introduced us to him, you know. He introduced, like, him to us. So, yeah, and it's true. Like, Tariq dropped a lot of gems in that live stream rant to Umar. He really did, because he was saying that Umar was saying that he made Hidden Colors hot. And I'm like, first of all, calm down, because I never heard of you before Hidden Colors. I didn't look you up independently. I don't think a lot of people didn't hear about you before Sinetter either put you on and you were starting to talk about how you were related to Frederick Douglass. Like, a lot of people didn't know about you before Hidden Colors. So I would calm down, because people have said you were arrogant, and this is showing right here. Okay? Calm down, bruh. I would really calm down. Have some humble pie. Have some humility, okay? Because you're just digging your own grave further. But in my opinion, I do believe that the real reason Tariq Nasheed outed Umar now was because there must have been a straw that broke the camel's back. Because people have said that Tariq Nasheed himself was a fraud. I don't know too much into that, because I don't really focus on Tariq Nasheed outside of Hidden Colors. I don't really pay attention to Tariq Nasheed like that. I just watch Hidden Colors and that's it. But people have been saying he's a fraud, he can't be trusted. The only thing shady I heard he really ever did, well, not the only thing, but one of the things I heard was he promised people backpacks, and, you know, he didn't deliver the backpacks. But the difference I would say between Tariq and Umar was that at least when Tariq Nasheed says there's going to be a Hidden Colors, we got a Hidden Colors. You know what I'm saying? And he's kind of smart to use Kickstarter to show that he's not taking any of the money out. Because with Kickstarter, correct me if I'm wrong, but with Kickstarter, you just raise the money, and when you hit your goal, you get the money. And he actually produces a film. So, you know what I'm saying? And honestly, Umar is kind of pathetic when he came after Tariq Nasheed, basically saying, oh, you claim to be against white supremacy, but you're hiring white people, you're hiring Jewish people to work on the film about white supremacy. Well, you could say the same thing about them, because they are supporting, in a way, a film that's talking about white supremacy, about being against white supremacy. So in my point of view, if they really felt uncomfortable, they wouldn't have done the job. And he does have, like, a few Black employees. I'm not sticking up for Tariq Nasheed because, like I said, I don't really follow him like that. So I'm just going off of what I see and what I know, because I've mostly paid attention to Umar more than any other person in this conscious community. So this is why I'm speaking out mostly about him, because I've spent the most time listening to him, you know. Yeah, but I find it funny because Tariq Nasheed said he never called him out for the longest because, you know, he just didn't want it to look bad for the family and the movement and everything. And I understand beefing does not look good for this quote unquote, you know, conscious movement. You know what? And I said what started off good is now ending in tragedy. Like, this is one of the reasons I backed out of this, you know, so-called conscious movement. I wasn't fully in the conscious community, but I heeded the words. I wanted to be. I agreed with most points they made. I thought these people were my guys. I said, yes, we need more people like them. And, you know, especially with the men, like, they're always beefing. You're always finding out someone's a con artist or a scammer. You know, they can't be trusted. They're very hypocritical. They're arrogant. They're this and they're that. Either their character is flawed or they're con artists. So that's another reason I backed out of this conscious community movement. Okay. And like I said before, Tariq Nasheed said he just didn't call Umar out before, even when Umar had, you know, all this sneak dissing and, you know, sly dissing Tariq Nasheed. Tariq said he never called him out because he just didn't want to, you know, ruin what we were doing for the movement, what he was doing for the movement. And in my opinion, I just think that's iffy and shady. I believe, and this is not me disrespecting him, this is not me disrespecting Tariq Nasheed, but I believe the real reason Tariq didn't call out Umar until now was because he did not want his dirty laundry aired out. Because I would say that this is a man who worked closely with him. This is a man who I heard introduced Umar to the game of like Hotep hustling and pimp preaching and stuff like that. I heard this. You can verify it if you want. Leave your opinion down in the comments section, but this is what I've heard. So I'm just saying, I'm putting two and two together. You're now calling this man out, saying I've let it slide because I just didn't want to ruin what we were doing for the movement and the family. But I really believe it's because there are other people who have called you a fraud, and I just believe that you didn't want to out yourself in the process by outing Umar. So that's just my opinion, okay? I believe that's the real reason, okay? But now that Tariq Nasheed said this man was a fraud, oh, it's mostly believable. I've watched multiple videos of Umar being a so-called fraud, and of course I was putting two and two together, and a lot of signs were pointing to yes. But with Tariq Nasheed's revelation and his expose of Umar, I mostly believe it now, because this is a man who's worked closely with him. This is a man who probably, checked him out. This is a man who, he said he donated money to the non-existent school. And you knew there wasn't a school, but you still donated money to a non-existent school. Okay. But yeah, that's just all I have to say about this Umar situation so far. Who knows? I might be coming back with another video, so stay tuned. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.